So hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for November. Jingle, 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 jingle. And joining me today is friend of the show, is Mr. Nigel Matthews from Gamesquest. Hello, sir.
Hello, Richard. Did I hear you just sing? Did you just sing, Richard?
Yes, because it's Christmas time and I love to sing.
Is this a new thing for you, or...?
It's kind of a new thing, because I didn't want to do any singing for October, so I decided to bring it in for November instead, because it's coming up to Christmas time and it's like parcel time and stuff like that. So I thought we've been kind of talking about you coming back on for a little while, and I thought, well, we just have to make this happen.
But if I knew you were going to sing, I might have changed my mind. So are you going to go into like Christmas carols now, Christmas jingles? A bit early for that yet, isn't it?
I could do, it is a little bit early for Christmas carols. It's a little bit early for Christmas Susans as well. So, if you don't like it, you can... It's, this is it. We're trying to get things into the season. Next month it'll be little bells a jingling, and I'll be saying things like, ho, 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 it's December, kind of thing. And just now, I'm just giving the people a little bit of a gentle kind of nudge to suggest that potentially the holidays are coming, but without any Coca-Cola.
Do you know what?
So,
I'm not going to be a humbug. Yeah, I think that's a fine idea. I think logistics.
There you go.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think you get a bit anaesthetised with logistics in terms of your Christmas. It becomes a bit numb. Even got two daughters myself, but you kind of like, you're so busy that you end up not enjoying it or not embracing it as much as you've done. You kind of fear the trepidation of the logistics headaches of Christmas. So, but yeah, no, come on. I'm not going to sing myself. Well, I could do, I suppose. Give me a bit of Tom Jones maybe later. But
I've heard rumours that you've got a slightly decent singing voice. But the first thing to find out about is how's tricks with you, because obviously you're continuing to be busy. You continue to do all these kind of
ridiculously busy. If I'm brutally honest, it's just too busy, really. To say nobody likes to be too busy, but in our case at the minute, we've had a series of very large, multi-complicated projects, which has kind of slowed us up a little bit. But they come along, and it's like a bus, I suppose. One in a while is not bad, and then three in a row come in. So we actually four in a row really. We had Star Realms, followed by Chip Theory Games, followed by Fallout, and currently Village Attacks is probably the most complicated and biggest of them all. So, but yeah, that's just life and logistics.
Is that putting pressure on? The thing is like, you can't kind of timetable in for when the ship's going to be coming in, especially if there's kind of like little delays. And is this kind of like a snowball situation where a small delay at one point can end up in a kind of a bigger delay kind of down the line, basically? Have you got
completely
to work around constantly?
Completely and utterly. I think we joked the last time about how our wonderful, adoring public backers have become logistic. Well, not all of them. A majority of people are level-headed and sensible, and then you get the people who believe they're logistics experts, and you get emails on the day it arrives in port and saying, well, when am I getting it? It's like, just arrived in port. Yes, in answer to your question, we at the beginning of August we only had a couple of small projects and things were quite quiet, and now we are like inundated with the amount of projects that we have, from big and small. I think last year we kind of did see a spike pre-Essen, but this year, everybody wants to get their projects out in time for Essen, and that's just you have this bottleneck effect. So, but yeah, it's just part of the nature of the business, and I think the bigger you are, the more of a logistic headache it becomes. Really, it's just life. Well, no more I can say about that, Richard. It's just like,
I know.
I could get my violin out and play. Yeah.
No, I was talking, I was going to say, like, you kind of like, some people see you as the Craig Revel Hallwood of the kind of the logistics industry. It's like the pantomime bad guy. One of the reasons we kind of, I guess, I wanted you on was there was kind of like the two things. It appears, like hot off the press before we even came on, that there appears to be some kind of agreement that's gone on between our fair UK government and the nastiness that is the EU, so that when we're going to be Brexiting, it appears that something might actually be on the table and it won't just be an abusive bit of graffiti between the two kind of organisations.
Well, look, I've talked to Theresa tonight, and I can tell you that we've had a long conversation, and I've supported her plan. Now, yes, hot off the press. What date is it today? It's 13th of November. So let's put that in. That the EU and the UK have come to an agreement on Brexit. I never for a moment doubted that would happen. Okay, never for a moment. I've been talking to lots of people in the industry and lots of my customers and stuff, and I was talking to another fulfillment company today. We were having a conversation, and we kind of both agreed that there was always going to be a Brexit deal. That there's too much riding on it, from both kind of governments really, and. My worry, and my always worries about this, is that I'm not worried about the EU and the government coming to an agreement. What worries me now is what's going to happen. What's going to happen after this, and how the government are first of all going to internalise with the cabinet, agree on this, because it's so derisive. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a view in terms of how Brexit should work, whether it's a no deal or part deal or whatever. Everybody seems to have a view, and everybody seems to think they're right.
Yeah.
And so first of all, she's got to get it through the cabinet, which is going to be a struggle in itself and derisory and all the rest of that. And then she's got to get it through Parliament. I don't think, look at the, look at the way that the Parliament is made up and how so split that the politicians are on, soft budget. And you cannot please everybody. There's no way that the government are going to be able to please everybody. So I have my doubts whether it's going to get through cabinet. I think it'll get through cabinet, but I have my doubts whether they're going to get it through Parliament. I hope they do, for my company's sake and every other fulfillment company that's out there that needs to offer EU friendly shipping. It'll make my life a lot easier. Don't get me wrong. We have plans in place should there be a hard Brexit.
One of the things that's never been, well, of course it depends on where you go to find out your information. But one of the things that's never been clear is, even the designers, the developers and everyone that I've spoken to has been, we're rushing to try and get everything sorted out before kind of March next year because we don't know exactly what's going to be happening. But for you, obviously, with you having to actually deal this with your kind of your bread and butter, what were the kind of what were the potential ramifications, the good and the good and the not so good, in terms of how it could have affected the kind of the fulfillment side, for those people out there?
There's two things that you've got to bear in mind. And a lot of people obviously don't realise this. They think that the EU-friendly shipping, if there's not a Brexit, will be null and void. That's not the case. Okay. First and foremost, it all depends on the value of the goods. So a lot of the smaller packages and projects would still be fine, because there's a tariff within the EU that if the declared value is below €22, then there's no custom VAT. So a lot of our single kind of pick projects, or double pick projects, will potentially be below that, because of the declared cost, which means that they'll be fine. It's not, maybe that's maybe 40 to 50% of our business. Thereafter, it's all a case of what that custom union deal will be like. And if it's a no deal, we have, because the cornerstone of our business is what we call direct injection into Europe. So we have, for example, because people have waited so long, like 6 months for their parcels. Then we use an economy track service into Europe. We call it direct injection. Basically, we send it to a consolidator in the UK. That consolidator then will palletize all the German parcels and Dutch parcels and French parcels. They then import. They then take that pallet and then they basically inject it into the local postal systems within Europe. So they use things like DPD, Deutsche Post, and so forth as well. It's fully tracked. It's very cost effective because it takes, on average, between 4 and 7 days to get to most EU countries. But it's a good service. Now, we have partnerships all over Europe, so which have warehousing, fulfillment service, etc. So our plan is very simple. That we have a very large multi-million-pound fulfillment business. They rely on that multi-fulfillment. Nobody's going to get that. So we have partnerships in place that if we have to move our pick and pack into a warehouse in Holland or Belgium, we can do that. So we, as I said to my customers, that what's happening with Brexit, and I say to them, listen, I have a business to protect you. I will be able to offer you a EU custom friendly ship-in, whether it's a hard Brexit, soft Brexit, somewhere in between Brexit, I have that business to protect. That's my job, to do that. So for us, it's just a case of we have plans in place, and those plans will be put into motion or action as and when there's a deal to be had. And of course, the other thing is if a deal is in place, there's a divorce period, which will take anywhere between 18 months to 2 years to 3 years potentially. So if there is a deal in place, then there'll be status quo, for another length of time, which means then we can kind of get those plans into place. So there's it's a worry, but then I've spoken to much bigger companies than I am, and nobody knows. There's massive companies out there that are on tender hooks, and I'm more worried for my employees than I am for us, because I will find a solution. It's what I do. But let's say. So that's pretty much where we are at the minute, and hopefully it'll be. I can't think. I can't. My staff say to me that I'm in meetings with different carriers and stuff, and I seem to get angrier. They say he gets angrier by the day, because it's not so much anger; it's frustration in terms of. I understand why people voted no. I voted yes, but I voted yes. Because to stay, because of obviously the nature of my business, and I wanted to protect that business and wanted to protect the people I employ. But I don't understand. I can see the bigger picture. I don't understand why people think that it's a good thing, But anyway, I see some benefits, but I think overall, I think we're mad not to believe in party political broadcasts. But there we go.
Has it led to different conversations with, say, companies that are, American-based companies that are shipping into Europe, and they're talking about kind of the EU-friendly shipping? Have you had to kind of be more of an educator and an advisor with some of these? Have they come in kind of expecting, well, we know that Brexit's happening, so therefore you're the fulfillment company, so I'm taking you're aware of how this is all going to pan out, and has it worked? Have you had to turn around and said, actually, at the moment, we don't know? I mean, is that in that case, is that to your knowledge, has that kind of affected kind of the approach to even companies considering, well, actually, we're just going to offer this game in America. We're not going to bother kind of shipping it into Europe? Or have you found that people are still quite happy to try and they need that reach into Europe, they need that reach into the UK in order to make the kind of the project successful, I guess?
Totally. We're just about to embark on a project called Binding of Isaacs. Did 3 million, and we're about to kick off that project. Hopefully on Sunday. I think we've got some extra staff coming in. And when they, and this is an interesting one because it wasn't so much the shipping that people didn't want to pay; it was the tax that people did not want to pay. And they didn't have any EU-friendly shipping when we first saw it. And we kind of reached out to them because one of the guys in the office was a massive fan. And that's so they have to listen to the community. And the community is going, look, we want back this because we don't want to pay the custom back. So it is utterly essential that international companies, predominantly US, Canada, whatever, offer EU-friendly shipping. They have to.
How does that work? How does that work for people that are saying, well, why is EU-friendly shipping such a big thing? I mean, what does it matter? I mean, I'm sitting here and saying, well, this guy's now released an update saying he's going to be doing EU-friendly shipping. Why should I care? I mean, why is that an extra bonus?
Well, because
this is for obviously,
because you're going to pay probably the same amount of value that you pay for the game in taxes when it arrives. Whereas if you ship it with a company like us within the EU, the publisher would pay the VAT at when it's imported, so they're covering the VAT cost, which is potentially less than you as a punter would pay, so they can absorb those costs and make it more attractive. If you imagine you're backing a game that's called Binding of Isaacs, and you're paying $30 to $40. And then you're going to have to, then the shipping is a lot more expensive because you're shipping it out from the US. Shipping out from the US to the UK is expensive. So you're going to have to pay, let's say you have to pay, $15 to $20, to have it shipped in the first place. And not only that, when it arrives in this country, because it's over the VAT threshold, which I think in the UK is, if I can remember correctly, £15, I think, or £20. Yeah. So you're then having to pay 20% on, say, £30. So you're having to pay an extra £6. Now, most of the games on Kickstarter are miniature-based games that are. Imagine you've got a Simon parcel. We do everything for Simon, and imagine you're doing a Simon parcel which is worth $150. So not only would you have to pay the shipping from America, but you'd also have to pay 20% on that $150. It becomes incredibly expensive. Whereas if it's EU friendly shipping, it comes through a company like ourselves, you're paying less shipping if it's done right with the publisher. And we try to consult on a lot of projects. If they come to us early enough, we can consult, show them how to successfully do your Kickstarter page to have more effective shipping, to be more targeted with their shipping, and then to basically attract more backers. They get more backers by doing it this way. So a lot more. I mean, just by having more targeted shipping, you can increase your backers by 5 to 10%, easily. So.
Yeah. Has with exchange rates and everything going, is shipping continuing to rise as a price then? I mean, are you finding you're having to look at kind of different ways of shipping product out to backers in order to kind of make it kind of financially worthwhile for yourself? Is that something you're constantly kind of having to look at to make sure that you're adding value to the customer, but you're also making sure you're not acting like a charity and doing everything for free?
It cuts both ways, yes and no. Luckily, our base shipping is set for the year. We get our shipping rates from our consolidators and it's normally fixed for the year,
Uh-huh.
and then because there's no fuel surcharge on there, and the same with the UK with Royal Mail, that's generally fixed for the year as well. So though they have changed that to quarterly, with that fighting them, that's another story. So that's not too bad, but equally it's good. It's a good thing at the minute, because obviously with the exchange rates, when we first started doing our fulfillment business, the exchange rate was at 1.555, something like that. It's now for the US now 1.3. So for our customers, for our publishers, it's actually more cost effective. So they're getting a better rate. So, but it makes no difference to me because I invoice in sterling. So.
All right. Okay. Okay.
It can do a DHL or express shipping that has vagaries such as.
From your view, over the last year, have the number of larger projects funding kind of larger amounts and having to ship more units, have they kind of increased? Because there seems to be less projects that are doing more numbers kind of funding, as opposed to as many kind of smaller guys from what I see. I see a lot of smaller guys kind of having to do like a second and third attempt now to kind of get funded, while as the guys that are really doing well are just knocking it out the actual park kind of thing. Have you noticed a change yourself in the amount of stuff that's going through in the bigger guys?
I think that if you, there's no two ways about it that our wonderful Kickstarters love the bling. Put a high quality miniature games on there, and the community get hold of it and kind of run with it. I think that there are more competition. There's no two ways about that, and the smaller guy needs to do a lot more marketing than they may think they need to do. We've been closely associated with the project, and we've kind of seen that. And if you are dependent on the type of game, you could do a lot of marketing and end up with a 2x return, which is simply just not good enough. Whereas if you are advertising a game that has got a lot of cool miniatures, cool stuff in there, then you're looking at a return of around about 5 or 6x, and that's basically for every pound you spend, you're getting £6 worth of revenue back in. So there's no two ways about it. It's tougher, and if you don't have a mailing list out there already, you're going to pay a lot for advertising and social media and all the rest of that as well. So it can be expensive. I don't have the full data to hand, but I've spoken to Luke Crane on Kickstarter quite a bit, and because we thought a big trend of more license-based products, hitting the market, and his version of that was still about 10%. Hasn't decreased, about the same. Even though your perception is that more license-stopped games are becoming more dominant, and we've seen a lot of that. So, but yeah. No, I just think there's more competition out there, if I'm honest. So, it's when I went to Essen many, many years ago, I did a video. I think it's still on our YouTube channel, I think. But and it's the stuff of dreams. It's amazing leveler, isn't it? You go to Essen and you can see somebody with a new game and a new project, and they could, have if the people at Essen, if the punters at Essen get hold of it, it can match the big boys, and I think that's the allure of Kickstarter, is that the small guy could launch something and become a massive hit with it. That's the lure. Not always reality, but the potential is there, isn't it? It's tantalizing.
With everything kind of being as it is, I take it you're still managing to get kind of plenty stuff out the door through the retail side of things. Because, one of the things, obviously everybody knows you for the logistics, but I mean, primarily, there's a part of the business that was involved also in the direct kind of retail sales as well. Is that still as strong? Has there been a kind of a change in that as well, or is that still just something that kind of ticks along kind of in the background kind of quite nicely?
Yeah, no, retail has been a tough year. There's no two ways about that. Online sales are becoming more competitive, and oddly, we changed our focus. We had unless you have a dedicated sales team and staff to your website, your website almost becomes a more less cost effective than selling on a third party website like Amazon, etc. There's no two ways about it. Mm-hmm. We got hit by a massive DOS attack recently, and we then had to put lots of firewalls up and everything as well. It's the first time we've ever had it, but took my website down for about 10 days, which is just crazy, and you spend a fortune on SEO, etc. as well. But so websites are good and they're there, but we've been doing really well at shows. We've been doing a lot of retail at various different shows. We've done pretty well at UK Expo and Tabletop Live, and we do quite a lot of other shows as well, and that seems to work. And we're also involved in the board game cafe generation. So we are part owners of Dice in Portsmouth, which is doing remarkable. I mean, we had a vision along with the partners that we're involved with of how a board game cafe, what we call it a board game lounge, should be, and how it should be laid out, and how it should be atmosphere, and how you should also have a retail aspect on there, and high quality, good food, good beer, and a real amazing atmosphere. And if anybody wants to look at it, if you Google on Facebook Dice Portsmouth, and we've been launched that now 4 weeks ago, and it is just brilliant. I mean, we do it ever so well, but I'm really pleased for the boys that have put a massive effort into it, and this looks amazing. So we are diversifying, and so retail is there, online sales are there, but I think people think that online retailers are maybe a faceless organisation, and we're not. We care so much about the hobby that we're trying to put it back into it in different ways. So.
Yeah, you find it. I mean, it sounds to me like it's not a case that you have to diversify to kind of survive, and it's also diversifying because you don't know what it's not a case of the next big thing, but almost the next big thing that everybody in the hobby is going to be kind of looking at and wanting to get involved in, and kind of wanting to kind of invest in at the same time. Do you think that the retail model is going to slowly kind of drift away, and it is just going to be the marketplaces? Or you hopeful that the kind of your retail side of the business will keep kind of going?
No, I think we're kind of coming to a conclusion that because we diversified very early in our time, and we kind of went more into the toys and collectible market as well. I think at some point we've got to make a decision in terms of more focus rather than diversity. I think we would. I think my retail manager Matt would love to open up a chain of shops. I think that would be that would be an ambition of his, and if that numbers stack up, and I think maybe we'll focus more on specialty rather than diversity. I think we're more heading towards that natural progression. So I think we're so passionate about what we do in our hobby, and the fact it's our lives as well, that it's just a natural progression to diversify. So, publishers are more asking me for distribution. Don't particularly want to get into distribution, but maybe we'll naturally go that way at some point. So we do a little bit of it when publishers, can you supply these shops? And it's not something that we do on a regular basis, but that might be something that we could look at. Publishing, we would love to get more into the publishing side of things, because the amount of creativity in the office is phenomenal, and the amount of people that come our way that will have amazing ideas but maybe lack that infrastructure and project management skills and knowledge to kind of go on solo are banging on our doors, and I'm going, that's a really good idea. I really want to get involved in that. So, but yeah, so that's something I think that we maybe like to get into a bit more. But that's down to our passion and love of the hobby and the love of board gaming more than anything. That, you know, if there's money to be made, and there's certainly money to be made, but done in the right way.
It's strange to think that, like, you know, you actually said, you know, thinking about actually opening up kind of more retail stores. Is that a strange thing, considering, like, you know, all you hear about is the high street being kind of, the high street's decimated, the high street's kind of dead, and everything should be going kind of online, and there's been a lot of victims of, you know, if you look at, say, like the Toys R Us kind of brand, that, you know, one of the things that was said about them was that they didn't have a strong enough kind of online game, and that's what kind of didn't help them kind of going forward. And the same's been with the like, obviously, like the game group, or even Morrison's, the supermarket, being told that their online side of the businesses wasn't strong enough. And now it seems like the retail kind of bricks and mortar and things like board game cafes, for instance, which are not, they're kind of really specialist shops. I mean, you're not a case of you're walking in and spending like a $5 or a $10. I mean, if you're going into a board game shop, you could be easily parting with a couple of £100 for, you know, some decent items. It just strikes me as a bit strange. It's almost like we're going kind of like topsy-turvy. Everybody was going online, and now everybody, because Amazon's and eBay's kind of dominated that space, it's like everybody's like saying, well, let's, you know, retail seems to be a decent way to go back and actually start to make a bit of money now.
I can't 100% comment with the accuracy of producing numbers on a statement about to give, and it's very much by instinct, and it's very much by what we do at shows. And I think that if you are, I disagree with your comment that you won't go in and spend a $5 or a $10. Well, that means the retail store is not doing their job properly, in effect. And you know, there are games out there that you can spend £8 on and be the best £8 you'll ever spend on a game. Cackalack and poker, the game, mind, that sort of stuff. I think that if when we've opened up, and I can only go from the board game cafe, and I had a very interesting chat with the MD of Asmodee, and because he was very keen in looking at how Asmodee can support that board game kind of market. And I think a lot of people, and if I talk about the board game culture or board game cafe culture, I think if you are a retail store that then goes, oh, your natural progression is then try and set a few tables up and offer, you know, some food and snacks on a table that people can come and play games, I think your success will be limited, because you are focused on catering for the hobbyist, okay? And our board game cafe is essentially aimed at the casual gamer and families and potential new gamers that will come in, because that's the sheer nature of it. And that's not to say that the hobbyists don't come in, because they do, but for us, that's the icing on the cake, you know. And our games library is amazing. It has such an eclectic view, from a deep, you know, Euro game to a very kind of light game and family games. I mean, for God's sake, we've even got Catopoly, all right, okay, in our library, and it is probably, and that goes to show, it's one of, you know, the most played games. People are curious. They come in. You know, we had a couple come in the other night, not long after we opened, and they were happy to be passing. Saw it, so we'll go in there. It was their first date. They're on their first date together, right? They came in and had an amazing time, you know. So we said, if you ever get married, you have to come back, and you know, and so forth. So that's the type of audience that we are aiming for, and yet we're amazed by the amount of role playing groups that are using the cafe, because the atmosphere is just terrific. It's amazing. Coffee's good, beer's good.
Yeah.
However, there's a retail zone. And in that retail zone is a cross-section of the games. And you see people migrate to once they finish the game, it always, 80% would go then into that retail zone, either try to look to buy a game or a game that they might have played in a library, etc., etc., etc. And a member of staff would always be there. I remember I came in there and, they wanted a 2-player game. I sold them Stuffed Fables. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Now, they didn't even bulk at the price. I mean, we offer the same price we would online, for example, but they didn't even bother looking. They didn't even question the price. They just bought it because they were looked after, they were good customer service, and they were sold to in a proper advisory or consultancy way. That's not all the time. People will come in and look and look what they do. And good game stores do that, very good game stores. Travelling Man up in Leeds, I know have a very good reputation. Eclectic Games in Reading, for example, have a very, very good reputation of having that accessible view. And if a game store is run in a very, very good way, and as I say, I can only go from my point of view as a cafe because I've not run a board game store per se. I've done much retail. I sell a lot of shows, etc., etc. In fact, I sold a game, talking about Brexit, I sold a game at a show to Michael Gove a couple of years ago. And it'll be my old favourite, by the way, Quartermaster General, of course. He bought that.
Really?
But what I'm saying is that if you're open, you're accessible, and you advise people, you will sell all day long. And I think if a board game shop is right, so I think if a retail shop is done right, and bearing in mind that the board game market is continually growing, it's up every single year in growth, more and more people getting into board games, which, love or hate them, you've got to say, Asmodee are very responsible for helping that growth with the amount of demos and stuff they get out there. Yeah. It's phenomenal the amount of work that they put in and the amount of shows they attend to, and in terms of getting the word out there and demonstrating and growing the hobby is terrific. So anyway, so that board game market is growing. I think if it's done right, then there is definitely a success to be made in that retail arena, as well as online. So that's my view. Love it.
What's going to be hot this Christmas then? I mean, what have you had people kind of asking about, or what are you thinking about stocking up to have on the, having the cafe shelves or bring in, for the kind of the online retail side of things?
You just never know. Honestly, you do not know. I mean, when I went to Essen for the first time 4 or 5 years ago, actually 5 years ago, I think, there was maybe 200 releases, maybe 200-300, and you could pick out the top 50, and the top 10, and go like, a couple of years, when it got first released, CS Files at Essen was the hot game. I knew it before I even went there. We could research it. We knew. We bought it. We brought it back, and that was like, that was one of the hot games. Whatever. I mean, there's 800 plus maybe 1,200 new releases kind of this year in terms of what's available and out there. So, I suppose anybody can look at the top 50 at Essen and say, well, are the days of big print runs kind of gone? So I think the NSK one, I can't remember the name of the game now, was that number one game out there, but I think it's already sold out. So, so it's supply and demand, isn't it? That might not be available. So, but I kind of like the word association games are really good. I played Track Words for the first time the other night. It's really good.
I've heard that mentioned recently. Yeah, I've heard that mentioned. I think it was Polyhedron Collider. Yeah. I think we're talking about Trap Words. Yeah. And they had some really good things to say about it.
It's really, really good. What the hell's the name of the game? Nyctophobia, I think I can never pronounce it, but it's where you put the
Nyctophobia. Is that the one that's Pandasaurus, and it's the one that's you basically got to wear a mask.
You put these basically dark glasses on, and then the guy playing the hunter, you put your finger on your piece and then you can feel around it, and you've got to try and find the other people and stuff. I thought I was going to hate it, and I ended up really loving it. So I think it was really cool. So, but I mean, I could say some great games, The Detective, which was really good. But if it's not in stock, then it won't be the number one. So it's really, I wish I could say it's really hard to tell, because the hobby these days is so diverse. It just, but it'll be Catopoly probably. So.
Have you gone out and bought like 5,000 units of Catopoly?
No, not that many. But it's on its way.
Do you commit? Do you commit a lot of? Do you commit to like certain units? Do you hedge your bets and just have some and some of everything that's in, or do you have to be quite strict and say, right, okay, we're only going to take like the top 15, the top 20 of this and bring it in, to make sure that you're not kind of ending up with kind of lots and lots of stuff kind of sitting on the shelves?
No, I don't do that. I'll tell you for why. You look at the market, okay, and look at like what would be the number one board game out there, Ticket to Ride. Okay, let's look at Ticket to Ride. Okay, go on Amazon or online and look at the price for Ticket to Ride. Everybody wants to make 50p to a pound. Really? If I took that view, I would stock 300 copies of Ticket to Ride and hope I sell. Well, I might make 50p or a pound. I'm not interested in doing that. It's just like, so when people come and see our stand at the shows, we will have probably the most diverse range of games at that show. And I know this for a fact because people love it and they compliment on us and they say like, we'll take stock of certain Kickstarters and either on a consignment basis or we'll purchase some stock. So when we go to a show, people love the fact that yes, I can sell Ticket to Ride, I can sell Mysterium and all of that sort of stuff as well, and code names and Dobble. If I went to sell Dobble on Amazon, and I wanted to try and compete with the lowest price, I'm telling you now, kid you not, Richard, I would make 25p, for every copy of Dobble. And if people want to go and make that sort of money, and then fine, they might sell 100 copies in a month or something, and what's that, make 25 quid? Great.
Is that why, things like, people are looking at diversifying away from the marketplaces in order to actually make a profit? Because I know obviously, and as everybody knows, my job is I deal with a lot of things to do with Amazon. I work as basically consult on, tell people how they should be selling on the different marketplaces. This is what I do during the day. And there are people that I see, the people that seem to be making the money aren't the guys that are selling what everybody else is selling, because that just seems to be a kind of like a race to the race to the bottom. Is there a chance that that's for established long selling games, places like the marketplaces aren't necessarily the places to sell them, because it's just the amount of hassle you have to go through. It's not worth the money that you make from it. Kind of that kind of point, and maybe the new and as with always, the new and shiny are the things where you kind of make the profit, and everything else you have to look at different methods in order to shift them in order to make some money.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think that you have to sell a huge amount of volume of a product at those sorts of prices that you are competing against to make any serious money, unless you are one of few sellers and you can do that. I think that, but then I think that. I think is when you look at the arc of a sales cycle of a kind of product, I think what you need to be is not so much an early adopter, because if the community haven't got hold of that game as yet, then you're not going to sell many. You need to be you need to have stock at the right time, so that just as it's catching, and the community, suddenly maybe there is a review on Tabletop, live or Dice Tower, and I'll give you a really, really good example. We had a product called Off the Rails, which was one of our Kickstarter publishers, and we had it on consignment. We maybe sold 2 copies in a month. In more than that, maybe 3 months. We took it to shows, nothing. We took about 30 to 40 copies to Essen, and it got a review, and we sold out. We couldn't keep it on shelves quick enough. So that's what I mean. The problem with trying to hedge your bets is that you are at the whim of, not so much the whim, but you are trying to catch a wave. If you can catch a wave of a good review, or getting spiked on the hotness table or something, and you can catch that wave, and you've got lucky if you catch that wave, then it's great. Because we were taking some stock out of our quarantine area, so we have permission from publishers to stock the library up from slightly damaged or nicks and dents and stuff as well. A few of my friends, my work colleague Simon, who works for me, were looking at the games we tell you, went, I really want to play that. Yeah, no. And then the next one, I really want to play that. Yeah, I want to play that. Should we just stay in a cafe for a few days and just play all of these games that we want to play? So you've got to catch that wave, and it's not to say that there is no money in making sure you have stock of Ticket to Ride and et cetera. So there was one year where we had stock of Dobble, and everybody ran out of it. We weren't going to compete on price. We had a load in stock on Prime at the time. I think we sent them in. We'd had them in for a couple of months, like 40 copies or something. And between Christmas and New Year, we sold out at a decent price. So people can't always keep everything in stock. So you can still make a decent margin as long as you're happy to kind of sit on it for a little while. But they will sell. Yeah. I wish it was that easy, though. I wish it was that easy.
I'm kind of like, as I say, it's something I'm immersed in on a kind of a day-to-day basis, and kind of speaking to developers, designers, people like yourself. It's the golden age of what people would say it's a lovely golden age of board games, and it's also people are kind of seeing how they can make money out of it, basically, which seems to be the thing. There seems to be all these multi-million kind of campaigns, people having successful Kickstarters, the next big thing coming out, and people are still kind of like saying, well, how can I actually make some, a bit of cash and kind of keep the wolf away from the door. But that's a dark and gloomy thought. What is a delightful thought, though, is obviously with the big fat man, only about 6 weeks away now. What is it you are hoping to find under your Christmas tree when you wake up? Because I'm assuming, and I may be assuming wrong, you're definitely potentially on the good list.
Well, if you look at social media, you probably wouldn't think that, would you?
I would be. I wasn't gonna go there, but I'm luckily just wondering if you've already been sent like a couple of bags of coal already and say there's your Christmas sorted out, kind of thing. But no, is there anything that you want to get your hands on? If you would woke up on Christmas morning in your jammies, ran downstairs, went under the tree, pushed everything aside, what would you like to see under the tree?
Do you mean my brother was going to buy me a game, so I'll buy a board game. I said, well, what are you going to buy me? I can just take it off the shelf. I can just take it off the shelf. There's nothing I want.
I know. So, but you're what? Ruining the question. But anyway,
sorry, no. But I did my Christmas list. I'm a massive DVD fan. I love watching DVDs and I love reading. I'm a massive book fan. So and I can't. And I ordered my copy of The Reckoners, which was written by Brandon Sanderson.
Oh yeah.
So
who actually we had on the we had them on the show. We had them not on the show not too long afterwards.
And I thought I'd ordered some retail copies, only had to send them over in a Kickstarter package. So I'm going, well, my copy of Reckoners. I still haven't got my copy of Reckoners. So yeah, I'm kind of really looking forward to that as well. So and there's another one. So I went around my friend John's, who's a senior guy at Asmodee and a massive collector, and he brought some Essen games over, and so we played trap words, but I love simple, brilliant games, because I think I put code names on one of my top lists in terms of introducing people to the hobby. And there's a new one called out there called Just One. Such a simple word association game. It's absolutely fantastic. So you have a card which you put in front of you, and you have 5 clues on there, and you have to name. You can't see them, but you have to go 1 to 5, and everybody else can see the name, and then everybody else on a little bit of like a Scrabble kind of board, with a felt tip rub off pen marker. They have to write a clue down there, but nobody else can see what clue they've written. And then you all have to show the clues to the other person. And if anybody's got the same clue, they're immediately eliminated. So let's say there's 4 players and 2 people have got the same clue, they're eliminated. And then so the person has to try and guess that name based on the last 2 clues that he has left. So it's such a simple, clever game. Love it. Absolutely love it. But that trap words, and we also played a tower defense game which is due out in February, so that's not going to be out for Christmas, called Breaking Bones, which is just fantastic. So maybe Just One. Reckoners, I think probably, as I really want a copy of my Reckoners, and I know there's one in maybe slightly dent and damage, so but I'm going to beg Brett so if I can have that one.
That. You're not wanting the Quartermaster Cold War then?
I have that already, mate. please. Could you? It's just like retailer 6th edition Salmonets waiting to see who wants the copy of Cold War. So and I met Ian Brodie actually over in Essen. Right. So it's a really nice chap. So and I was supposed to have dinner with him, but we were so tired that first night that I just said, "Oh, Ian, I can't. I'm so tired." We were absolutely exhausted from the setup, but and the first day was just exhausting Essen. So so no, Cold War is already on my desk, my friend. That's been bagged. So
there you go.
How about you?
Yeah,
how about you, Richard? What's on your Christmas list? What would I maybe send you secretly in the post when your wife orders from Gamesquest?
Heroes of Land, Air and Sea.
Yes.
I've coveted just to have it. I was kind of definitely one, and I was looking at Feudum as well, but it's kind of strange because I've seen kind of mixed reviews of it now. Unfortunately, I've seen people saying it's an actual bugger to learn, and I've seen other people that says, there's a lot of kind of complicated to the rules that you need to kind of really be Johnny on the spot with it. But that, I mean, those are the two main ones. What else was I looking at? I'd always you know what? Keyforge kind of intrigues me. Just I know it's like this at the moment's kind of hotness. But I think one of the main ones is I still never ever played Charterstone. And the thing about that is it came out in such a flourish, and then it seemed to kind of die away and kind of disappear. And I was expecting it to kind of have a longer kind of tail to it. But I think that's just the way the media is. So yeah, Feudum, I think. Feudum or Keyforge, I think. Heroes of Land, Air and Sea, definitely.
I love the look of Feudum, and I love that card mechanism because obviously Quartermaster General, and I see some similarities when I've read the back of the box. But I really want to play Feudum myself. I've gone.
I'd want somebody to bring it in. I want somebody to bring it in, and for me to have a shot, and then to play it. I mean, and to really, to experience it, I think, before I'd want to play it. Heroes of Land, Air and Sea, I think everybody that I've spoken to about it have just said, yeah, it's amazing. I've actually seen it in life. It's absolutely huge. It's massive. It's just, it looks amazing. So I'm really kind of interested in kind of getting my hands on that.
Have you played Keyforge yet?
I have not.
No, I have.
I've heard people kind of talk about, people are talking about the funny decks, the funny named decks at the moment. I'd be interested to see actually kind of kind of what it would be like. It'd be interesting. I think it's going to be worth a punt. I think it's like about 15 quid or something like that. I don't think it's much more than that. So I think that might be definitely something that's worthwhile asking for.
It's going to be
Santa,
interesting. I mean, I've spoken to Magic players and who maybe would play 200 games of Magic and, a week, and now they just play Keyforge. I personally don't like the way it plays. I can't, I play things like Star Realms and other deck building games and that sort of stuff as well. And, this is obviously slightly different. I don't know. I played it about 3 or 4 times now. I'm not sure about it. And it'd be interesting to see whether the community embrace that mechanism of, pay £15 and that's your deck, and it's then all about skill or that deck being able to manipulate that deck, it's an interesting kind of phase, but I think a lot of push is going to be pushed on it. So I think. In terms of your review of Charterstone, it's really interesting because I played Charterstone. I played the first four rounds, and then our kind of group, other people then started coming in the group, so we never kind of got around to it, and it was really interesting. But I'm just kind of wondering that legacy games are going to be, because all the really big legacy games are like co-op games, aren't they? And I'm just kind of wondering whether or not that the legacy world will run more better with that cooperative kind of genre. It'd be interesting to see. But I thought Charterstone was excellent. But yeah.
See, my only concern with it is having a group long enough that's going to play it for long enough, and that you would end up like playing 3 rounds and then that was it. It'd be, I've played Root probably the most this time this year. I think I've played Root maybe about 4 or 5 times just consecutively, just because it's asymmetrical, so you can play it 5 times and have 5 absolutely different games because of the different factors.
What do you think of it?
But
what do you think of it?
It's fantastic.
Really?
Really, really like it. Yeah. Really, really like it.
I thought Vast was brilliant,
really
but I think I've only played Root twice, and I think it's like, let's take the Vast theme and make a real kind of war-y game with it. Whereas I thought Vast thematically was amazing. I'm not quite feeling it with Root. It's good, but I'm not quite sure the fuss on it. So, but yeah,
it's really funny because you've got to, you'll find a faction that you really, really bond with and do really, really well with, and it kind of changes completely. It really changes completely based on the number of players, not just because it does actually change completely with different players because you've got completely different factions. And so I've experienced it with 2 players, 3 players, 4 players now, and it's been a kind of a different game kind of ever since. So it's really good. No, it's really, 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 really good fun.
Now, here's a tip for you if old school stuff. By the way, next year when I was at Gen Con, I played Simon's Wacky Races.
Oh wow.
The models, Richard, if you remember Wacky Races, you must remember Wacky Races. Of course I do.
Yeah, Anthill Mod, Penelope Pitstop.
It was brilliant. I think the rules needed a lot of tweaking, and I think the designers were going back to the drawing board to kind of play it, but I think the models were amazing. I'm so looking forward to Wacky Races next year. It's going to be so much fun.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
In terms of that sort of gateway sort of entry game, oh my God, it's just like, it's absolutely fantastic. So, but there we go. So cool. So, yeah. And I've got to say, my friend, one little shout out, if I may, for my good friend Joseph Liano, who's launched his new Kickstarter, which is Pet Evil. So, going super well. So I've got to give a shout out for Pet Evil for next year. It's an awesome game. Sorry. Had to be said.
That's fine. And where can we find you on the internet webs, Mr. Nigel Matthews?
Gamesquest.co.uk. Dun, dun, dun. There's my little song. Gamesquest.co.uk.
I'm cutting that. I'm telling you now. I'm actually not going to cut it. I'm going to put a. I'm allowed to sing. It's my show.
Hey, I could have had my little xylophone. Ding, 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 ding.
I don't want your xylophone anywhere near my podcast. Yeah. Well, as I say, it's always a pleasure to have you on. So, if you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, go to internet webs. We're Not Wizards on Twitter. We're Not Wizards on Facebook. We're Not Wizards.com for the website. We're Not Wizards for Instagram. We're Not Wizards.blogspot.com, where we do some writing. You can catch us across the various podcast catchers, your Stitchers, your Speakers, your Acast, your Cast Boxes, your Pod Knives, and you can also get us through Podbean as well itself. We're on Patreon because we like to be patronized.
What?
We are,
Patreon?
but you can also, Patreon. If you can, if you want to be nice to us, then you can jump onto Apple Podcasts and you can leave us a rating or a review. And you can also do us a subscription as well, because that makes us all very, very happy. But if you are going to leave us a rating or review, don't give us a 10 stars, because it makes us big-headed. But don't give us a 1 star, because it makes us cry. Give us 5 stars, because it's in the middle. And it's average. And
like you're
we're
singing,
just a little bit average. Shut up. But the person who's not been average tonight is the rather mundane, the rather below par, the rather fantastic Mr. Nigel Matthews.
And if you get a vote, if you ever get another vote stay, please. For EU-friendly shipping out of the UK, vote stay. If it goes back to vote, please vote stay.
Yeah. And that was a party political podcast
on behalf
brought
of
to you,
the EU-friendly shipping campaign in the United Kingdom.
The Kickstarter fulfillment company. There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Nigel?
Of course not. Sorcerers.
Absolutely fantastic. Get off. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Nigel. Say goodbye, Nigel.
Goodbye, everybody. Good night, Richard. Been a pleasure.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe. Roll6s.com. And if you're going to go on a quest, it's not a quest unless it's Gamesquest.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yes, good night, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.